Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing about queue in Python. Please start. So just like stack, queue is a linear data structure that stores items in first in, first out, or in an FIFO manner. So with a queue, the list recently added items is removed first. A good example of queue is any queue of consumers for a resource where the consumer that came first is served first. So it's a first come, first served basis. Here is a diagram of how, or a flow chart of how queue works. So in queue, inserts the data, and the queue deletes the data. So in queue starts with the rear, and DQ ends at the front. So first in, first out. Next, operations associated with Q are in queue, the queue, front, and rear. In queue adds an item to the queue. So if the queue is full, then it is said to be an overflow condition, which in time complexity, it is a big O of 1. In DQ, it removes an item from the queue, which the items are popped in the same order in which they are pushed. So if the queue is empty, then it is said to be an underflow condition, or in time complexity, big O of 1. Front, it get the front item from queue, and the same time complexity, big O of 1. The year also get the last item from queue, which also has the same time complexity, which is big O of 1. Next, implementation. So there are various ways to implement a queue in Python. Queue in Python can be implemented by the following ways, list, collections.dq, queue.queue. So these three are the following ways in implementing queue in Python. Implementation using list. So list is a Python's built-in data structure that can be used as a queue. Instead of in queue and dequeue, append and pump function is used. However, lists are quite slow for this purpose because inserting or deleting an element at the beginning requires shifting all of the other elements by one, requiring a big O of n time complexity, which is a linear time. Next, here is an example of a code. So the Python program to demonstrate queue implementation using list. The first one is the initializing queue, which is a variable queue with an empty set. And to add the elements to the queue, queue that append A, queue that append B, queue that append C. So the variable queue now has the elements of A, B, and C. So once we print initial queue, uh, it brings out the value of queue. Now for removing elements from the queue, we use the pop function. Queue, queue that pop 0, queue that pop 0, queue that pop 0. So queue after removing elements, we print out queue. Uncommenting print k. So uncommenting print queue that pop 0 will raise an index error as the queue is now empty. So as you can see here in the pop, queue that pop, it's been repeated 3 times, and the index that has been popped is 0, and it doesn't change. So once it is popped, only that first only 0 will be popped. So you can
decrease 0 since it's 0.
So it will raise an index 0 that pop from empty list. Next, implementation using collections.dq. So Q in Python can be implemented using dq class from the collections module. dq is preferred over list in the cases where we need quicker append and pop operations from both the ends of container. As dq provides a constant time complexity for append and pop operations as compared to list which provides a linear time complexity. So instead of enqueue and dequeue, we use append and pop lift functions. So here's a sample program on how to demonstrate queue implementations using collections.dequeue. Now we import from collections, import the queue function. Now we initialize queue or dequeue with the variable queue to make it easier. And same as the last time, add elements to the queue A, B, C. Now to remove elements from a queue. Once we use the pop left, uh, it will remove the elements in the left side. So here is the dequeued from the queue A, B, C. It started from left to right. And if you use pop left again, if, and the list or the queue is empty, it will raise an index error, which is pop from an empty queue. Next,
Implementation using Q.Q. Q is built-in module of Python which is used to implement a queue. Q.Q maximize initialize a variable to a maximum size of maximize. A maximize of 0 means an infinite queue. This queue also follows the FIFO rule, which is first in, first out. There are various functions available in this module. First is max size. This is the number of items allowed in the queue. Next is empty. It returns true if the queue is empty, false and false otherwise. Next is full. It returns true if there are maximized items in the queue. If the queue was initialized with maximize 0, the default, then the full never returns true. Next is get. This function removes and return an item from the queue. If queue is empty, wait until an item is available. Next is get underscore no wait. It returns an item if one is immediately available. Else raise queue empty. Next is put item. This function puts an item into the queue. If the queue is full, wait until the free slot is available before adding the item. Next is put no wait item. This function puts an item into a queue without blocking. If no free slot is immediately available, raise queue full. Next is queue size. This function returns the number of the items in the queue. Next. So here is some example codes to demonstrate the implementation of queue using queue module. So first we import queue, and then we initialize a queue with a max size of 3. And then next we add some elements to a queue by using put met function. And here, as you can see, we can get the item in the queue by using get function. And so if we print empty queue.empty, it will return true. And then after that, we put another one just to test if it works. And we try it again, the empty method, and it returned false. And if we print full, queue.full, it will return false kasi hindi puno yung queue. Meron lang siyang isang item kasi isa lang yung dinagdag natin. Next. So we will also discuss the queue in Python. The queue is a double-ended queue in Python is implemented using the module collections. The queue is prepared over release in the cases where we need quicker append and pop operations from both ends of the container. As the queue provides an big O one-time complexity for append and pop operations as compared to a list which provides a big O and time complexity. Next. So let's see the various operations in the queue. First, we have append. This function is used to insert the value in its argument to the right end of the queue. Next is append left. This function is used to insert the value in its argument to the left end of the queue. Next is pop. This function is used to delete an argument from the right end of the queue. And last one, we have pop left. This function is used to delete an argument from the left end of the queue. Next.
Go. Okay, ito po yung implementation ng mga function na sinabi kanina. Yung nag-import siya ng collections, naglagay siya ng DQ ng 1, 2, 3, and yung nag-append siya ng 4. Kaya ang naging result po niya ay 1, 2, 3, 4. Yung append po, inalagay po siya sa rightmost corner nung DQ. And ang sunod po niyang ginawa ay nag-append left po siya ng 6. From the name itself, append left. Imbis sa kanan, sa kaliwa naman po siya in-append. Kaya naging 6, 1, 2, 3, 4 po ang result niya. And sumunod naman po ay nag-pop siya. Pinop niya yung DQ. Kaya ang naging result po niya ay 6, 1, 2, 3. Pinop po yung rightmost. And sumunod naman po ay nag-pop siya sa left. Nag-pop left siya function. Kaya ang pinop po niya ay yung nasa leftmost. Kaya nawala po yung 6. Natira lang ay 1, 2, 3. Next. Okay, ito naman po. Ito pa po yung ibang function sa the queue. Your index, L, beg, and end. This function returns the first index of the value mentioned, the arguments starting searching from the beg till the index, and insert I and A. This function insert the value mentioned in the arguments at I at A arguments and at index I specified in the arguments. And next naman po ay remove. This function removes the first occurrence of the value measured in the arguments. And count is this function counts the number of occurrences of the value measured in the arguments. Next. Okay. Ito po yung mga implementation ng function na sinabi kanina. Katulad po ng kanina, nag-import ng collection, naggawa ng DQ na 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4. Tapos ang ginawa po niya, naghanap siya ng index element of 4 from 2 to 5. Kaya ang first occurrence at the position 4, 2, 1, 3, 4. Yung position po niya ng 4 from 2 to 5, position 2 to 5 ay nasa position 4. And yung insert naman po yung 4 sa 3. Kaya ang result po niya ay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nasa 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 2, 4 po siya. Nasa position 5 po siya. Yung 3. And nagsumunod naman po, kinount niya yung 3. Kung ilan ang 3 sa DQ. Kaya po, dahil tatlo po ang 3 siya, ang result po niya ay 3. And nag-remove naman po niya ang 3. Ang first occurrence na 3. Kaya naging dalawa ng 3. Kaya naging 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 4 na lang po siya. Next. Ito pa po yung ibang function. DQ. Extend iterable. This function is used to, this function is used to add multiple values at the right end of the queue. The argument passed is iterable. Next, extend left iterable. This function is used to add multiple values at the left end of the queue. The arguments passed is iteratable order is reversed as the result of left appends. Next naman po ay reverse. This function is used to reverse the order of the queue element. And last is rotate. Rotate. This function rotates the queue by the number specified in the arguments. If the number specified is negative, rotation occurs to the left, and vice versa po, pag positive ay right. Next. Okay, ito po yung example ulit ng implementation of functions. Nagawa ulit siya ng collection and nag-declare siya ng 1, 2, 3 na sets. And una po niyang ginawa ay extend. In-extend niya ng 4, 5, 6. Kaya po ang result niya ay from 1, 2, 3 naging 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And sumunod naman po siya ay nag-extend left naman po siya ng 7, 8, 9. Kaya po ang nag-result ay 9, 8, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inuna po niya yung 7 na nilagay. Sumunod ay 8. Sumunod ay 9. Kaya ganyan po ang nag-flip siya, nagbaliktad siya. And nag-rotate po siya ng negative 3. Kaya po ang naging result niya from 9, 8, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Naging yung 9, 8, 7 po napunta po sa kanan. Kaya naging 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8, 7. And sa nag-reverse naman po siya ng reverse. Kaya binaliktad lang yung set. Nauna yung 7, 8, 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8, 7. Next. That's all. Thank you.